Hey everyone, Avios Adventurer here again. I've just been looking back through some photos and videos of the past year, and it's made me remember an awesome business class redemption that I managed to travel on in April of 2022. But this redemption, its story kind of started way back in 2020. You know, 2020, that great year. So this offer came out of absolutely nowhere, and it was too good for me not to snap up. So let me tell you about what it was and how I did it. So 2020, I was due to travel from London to South Africa. I was getting married and we were getting very excited. We'd been planning the wedding for some time, and the days were starting to tick down. Now, the AvGeek in me was also excited as we were due to travel on Virgin Atlantic's, at the time, brand new upper class suites on board their A350. The seats had been meticulously chosen after consulting Seat Guru what seemed like 100 times. I'd watched every YouTube review of the seat and excited to start our wedding journey in the most luxurious way possible. But with 2020 being the year that it was,
from this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
some of us did stay at home and cancelled everything. So for us, we had to figure out what was happening with our wedding, what was happening with our flights, and the whole travel industry came to an absolute halt. Now, there arguably were bigger things in the world to worry about. There was a global pandemic, none of us had been through any of this before, but it meant that every bit of travel had to be put on hold. There were only exceptional circumstances that people could leave the country. Unfortunately, our wedding was pushed back and back and back. Now, throughout the pandemic, airlines still had costs, but people weren't travelling. It gradually rose over time, but airlines were hemorrhaging money. Airlines make money when planes are in the sky and they've got bums on seats. So they were trying to figure out a whole host of things. Number one, how can they keep their staff employed? Number two, how can they keep any kind of money coming in? And number three, trying to figure out if they're going to see it past the pandemic. Will they be in existence on the other end? Lots of airlines obviously wanted to be able to sell tickets, keep money coming in, but with the uncertainty around travel restrictions, the border being closed, there was a red list in the UK, there were all of these different factors and unknown variables that it was hard for people to spend their hard-earned money on a ticket if that flight was going to be cancelled or they weren't able to get in. Now, some airlines started getting creative with this to keep the cash flow coming into the bank. One of those is an airline that I've absolutely loved flying with, but hadn't done for quite a few years, which is Etihad, based out of Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Now, this offer came probably 3 or 4 months into the pandemic. European travel was possible. I'd been to Croatia, sorted out some tickets for that. That was quite straightforward. But I was starting to think ahead again towards the wedding. How was I going to get down to South Africa with my fiance for us to get married? Now, that original Virgin Atlantic ticket had been given to me as credit, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I'll use that again, until this email dropped into my inbox. Now, I was intrigued by this. There weren't many great emails coming from airlines in 2020. It was often updating around policy for masks. Vaccinations weren't even a thing at that point. So I took a kind of a closer look at it, and what it basically was Etihad trying to get some money in the bank, keep the cash flow going, but giving something to passengers so that when travel was possible, it incentivized them to choose Etihad. Now, with it being an airline that I already really liked, I knew they had a great business class product, I knew they had a great economy product, I thought, hey, let me kind of dig into this a bit further. Now, effectively what it was Etihad giving you the chance to store some money with them for future use. You were buying credit with them, effectively a travel voucher, but they were going to top it up by 50%. So if you bought $1,000 worth of credit with them, you would in effect have $1,500 of credit to use with them. So kind of on that math, there's a 33% saving that you can make. You know, if your tickets were going to be $1,500, you're buying them for $1,000. You're just kind of really paying up front. You haven't even booked a flight yet, but you know that you can make that saving. So I thought, hold on a second, I got a voucher with Virgin Atlantic. I know I could use that in the future, whether I'm going to South Africa, whether I'm going to the States, wherever it may be. Let me have a look at Etihad, because this is really good value, and I know how to find really good business class flights with Etihad. So I kind of dug into it a bit more. So as I've shown on previous videos, I kind of know how to find better deals, and these basically, if you're prepared to not start in London and start in another sort of close by European city, you're going to find much better deals. So I knew, hey, I'm going to look for London on the off chance there is a really good deal. But as you can see now, looking from Dublin, Amsterdam, Madrid, down to Johannesburg with Etihad are saving a lot of money. I can't remember in 2020 exactly what it was like when I was looking for flights for 2021. But I know that roughly the savings for two of us were over £3,000. So that's before we were even using the voucher and the credit from Etihad. I was getting the saving, and then I was able to get those further savings by putting that money into Etihad and then giving me the 50% bonus. So I think I put a total of £3,000 in, giving me £4,500 of credit to use with Etihad. Overall, I managed to not use all of that money, and I then used the remainder of the balance for a short 4 or 5 day trip away to Abu Dhabi after my wedding. So what started out with wedding being cancelled, being distraught around that, kind of led to when we were able to travel to South Africa and get married, being able to fly in a fantastic airline in a great cabin and also save lots of money. With regards to the Virgin credit, we were invited to a wedding in Canada, so we decided to use it flying to New York with Virgin Atlantic in upper class, and we finally got to try Virgin Atlantic's upper class suites on the A350. So quite a long-winded story, but just an example of how when the opportunity presents itself, sometimes it's worth snapping it up and then kind of figuring out how you're going to use it further down the line.